Last night, Blizzard President J. Allen Brack released a statement clarifying Blizzard's position and reducing the ban for Blitzchung and the casters involved to 6 months, as well as giving the prize money back to Blitzchung. Then, earlier today, Blitzchung responded on his own Twitter, explaining where he stands on the situation. And we're going to get into all of this, but to me, what's more important is to spread awareness to the protests in Hong Kong. A lot of people asked me, well, if you don't think boycotting Blizzard does much, what actually does something? The Hong Kong Reddit has this pretty lengthy post for instructions of things you can do across the globe or even for a specific country you're in order to help support them. I'm incredibly moved by the situation Hong Kong is in. I see it as no different than how America started as a country, and I definitely wouldn't want to live under the regime of China either. This post looks intimidating, but spend just a little bit of time, sign the change.org petitions, and more importantly, write your local representatives. That's how actual change happens, is when you start to move your government, who do have the power and authority to effect a meaningful change. I personally have signed all the petitions, wrote my representatives that I want to see change not only with the Hong Kong situation, but my concerns with international relationships with China. And also on the Reddit, there's links to various charity funds that if you have the means to do so, you can donate to help the protest movement, which I also did happily. And if there is any positive in this entire cluster of a story, I probably wouldn't have done if this situation wasn't brought to light to me. So I'm very thankful for Blitzchung to take the risk that he did, potentially jeopardizing his career like he knew he might in order to spread awareness. And I would urge the rest of you to try to make a difference in this regard as well. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into Blizzard President J. Allen Brack's statement regarding the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament. He says, "Hello, Blizzard community. I want to take a few minutes to talk to all of you about the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament this past weekend. On Monday, we made the decision to take action against a player named Blitzchung and 2 shoutcasters after the player shared his views on what's happening in Hong Kong on our official broadcast channel. At Blizzard, our vision is to bring the world together through epic entertainment. And we have core values that apply here. Think globally, lead responsibly, and importantly, every voice matters, encouraging everybody to share their point of view. The actions that we took over the weekend are causing people to question if we are still committed to these values. We absolutely are, and I will explain. Our esports programs are an expression of our vision and values. Esports exists to create opportunities for players from around the world, from different cultures and from different backgrounds, to come together to compete and share their passion for gaming. It is extremely important to us to protect these channels and the purpose they serve, to bring the world together through epic entertainment, celebrate our players, and build diverse and inclusive communities. As to how those values apply in this case, first, our official esports tournament broadcast was used as a platform for a winner of the event to share his views with the world. We interview competitors who are at the top of their craft to share how they feel. We want to experience that moment with them. Hearing their excitement is a powerful way to bring us together. Over the weekend, Blitzchung used his segment to make a statement about the situation in Hong Kong in violation of the rules he acknowledged and understood, and this is why we took action. Every voice matters, and we strongly encourage everyone in our community to share their viewpoints in the many places available to express themselves. However, the official broadcast needs to be about the tournament and to be a place where we are all welcome. In support of that, we want to keep the official channels focused on the game. Second, what is the role of shoutcasters for these broadcasts? We hire shoutcasters to amplify the excitement of the game. They elevate the watchability and help the esports viewing experience stay focused on the tournament and our amazing players. Third, were our actions based on the content of the message. Part of thinking globally, leading responsibly, and every voice matters is recognizing that we have players and fans in almost every country in the world. Our goal is to help players connect in areas of commonality, like their passion for our games, and create a sense of shared community. The specific views expressed by Blitzchung were not a factor in the decision we made. I want to be clear, our relationship in China had no influence in our decision. We have these rules to keep the focus on the game and on the tournament to the benefit of a global audience, and that was the only consideration in the actions we took. If this had been the opposing viewpoint delivered in the same divisive and deliberate way, we would have felt and acted the same. Okay, what could have Blizzard done better, and where do we go from here? Over the past few days, many players, casters, esports fans, and employees have expressed concerns about how we determine the penalties. We've had a chance to pause to listen to our community and reflect on what we could have done better. In hindsight, our process wasn't adequate and we reacted too quickly. Yeah, no kidding. About 5 seconds of deliberation would have told you that. We want to ensure that we maintain a safe and inclusive environment for all players and that our rules and processes are clear. All of this is in service of another important Blizzard value: play nice, play fair. In the tournament itself, Blitzchung played fair. We now believe he should receive his prizing. We understand that for some, this is not about the prize, and perhaps for others, it is disrespectful to even discuss it. That is not our intention. But playing fair also includes appropriate pre- and post-match conduct, especially when a player accepts recognition for winning in a broadcast. When we think about the suspension, 6 months for Blitzchung is more appropriate, after which time he can compete in the Hearthstone Pro Circuit again if he so chooses. There is a consequence for taking the conversation away from the purpose of the event and disrupting or derailing the broadcast. With regard to the casters, remember their purpose is to keep the event focused on the tournament. That didn't happen here. We are setting their suspension to 6 months as well. Moving forward, we will continue to apply tournament rules to ensure our official broadcasts remain focused on the game and are not a platform for divisive or social political views. One of our goals at Blizzard is to make sure that every player, everywhere in the world, regardless of political views, religious beliefs, race, gender, or any other consideration, always feels safe and welcome both competing in and playing our games. At Blizzard, we are always listening and finding ways to improve. It is part of our culture. Thank you for your patience with us as we continue to learn. Sincerely, Jalen Brack, president of Blizzard Entertainment. Like everything with this case, this statement has been quite controversial, and as I found with my previous video covering this, it's very difficult to express any nuanced beliefs on this whatsoever, because through the branching paths of having an independent view, pretty much every other sentence someone could get upset by what I have to say, even if we agree on 90% of the issues. As I said at the start of the video, I support Hong Kong, not a fan of the Chinese government, and it would be very easy for me to pile on with the pitchfork mob, universally condemning and demonizing everything Blizzard does. They definitely made a mistake here. The punishments they dished out were blowing the situation out of the water, but at the same time, if we are to allow Blizzard to be a global company, which they are currently, you have to think about not just the Chinese government, but alienating Chinese fans. That's something that I think not anyone has brought up. There's an assumption that there's just a relationship between the Chinese government and Blizzard, as if there isn't millions of players who have their own complex views and feelings about these very divisive issues. Again, remember, I can't be more pro-Hong Kong personally, but if you want to keep a neutral platform, you can't allow either side to argue or egg each other on. That's why Blitzchung's statements on the broadcast are more severe than other political speech. It isn't simply an opinion on something that everyone in that local region accepts. For example, I see a lot of people comparing Blizzard promoting Pride Day in the West, where it's widely accepted, not really a risk, like it may have been 50 years ago for a company to defend those virtues. But in truth, the Blizzard Overwatch League broadcast didn't force countries like South Korea to participate in Pride Day because they don't feel the same way as a culture about those issues. Now, you may feel that you would prefer Blizzard to espouse all of our Western virtues across the globe, but in reality, companies that operate in these other countries that feel differently about government, for example, it isn't just the Chinese government that's communist, the culture of China on the whole is. And although we in the West have a knee-jerk reaction to assume communism is just a terrible idea, I'm not so sure the entire populace is just living in complete rejection of how their society is built. If I had to guess, I'd imagine that they feel kind of similar to how we feel about our government. It does the job, it's good at some things and it's terrible at others, or there's people who really like it. So you can't allow either party to instigate one another down this line. Calling for a revolution up against a government is a very big deal, probably the highest form of political speech you can have. I think people are really underselling how much of a big deal that is in the context of where it was said, in China, on a Chinese broadcast, with Chinese viewers. I just can't get on board with the fashionable outrage that's lacking a bit of substance and is dishonest in some ways. Blizzard has routinely been ban happy. They ban everything that's even a little bit controversial. And it's fine fine for you and I to be against that, but the fact is they are consistent with how they handle controversial flare-ups. They shut it down, always. And this isn't a green Pepe frog this time. It's two countries that potentially could go to war with one another. In order for Blizzard to remain neutral and operate in all these different countries and try to bring people together, you have to make the tough choice of not allowing serious political disagreements on your platforms. Again, I'll stress, if you feel passionate about this, be sure to click the link in the description to the free Hong Kong subreddit where they detail ways to actually help Hong Kong. And I'll note one step further, if you're worried about China's growing power as the #1 economic superpower in the world and how your country handles that, it's also important that we take this to the representatives. Now, moving on, we have Blitzchung's personal statement from a twit longer. This is what he has to say. And for the purposes of just clarity, I will try to proofread the English a little bit here, but I will have the exact word-for-word quotes on screen. He says, "Thank you for your attention in the past 1 week. This is a personal statement and my view on Blizzard's latest decision. First of all, I'm grateful for Blizzard reconsidering their position about my ban. Earlier this week, I told media that I knew I might have penalty or consequences for my act because I understand that my act could take the conversation away from the purpose of the event. In the future, I'll be more careful on that and express my opinions or show my support to Hong Kong on my personal platforms. Many people have been asking me if I accept the latest decision by Blizzard. I will discuss that on 2 parts. On tournament prizing, Blizzard mentions that I played fair in the tournament and they believe that I should receive my prizing. This is the part I really appreciate. For the second part about my suspension, Blizzard had changed their suspension on me from a year to 6 months. Once again, I appreciate their reconsideration on this. To be honest, I think 6 months is still quite a lot to me, but I'm also being told that I can continue to compete in the Hearthstone Pro Circuit, which by that they mean the Grandmaster tournament. I appreciate this decision they made because Grandmasters is currently the highest level of competitive tournament in Hearthstone. However, I wish Blizzard would reconsider the penalty on the 2 casters involved." So here, Blitzchung, like many people online, don't feel the casters should have been punished, but to that point, keep in mind that the casters pretty clearly knew it was about to happen, didn't really do anything to stop it, and kind of giggling and egging it on. They don't really need a ban because Blizzard just isn't going to hire them again. You feel for them in that situation, but at the same time, if you're a professional caster, you need to be able to steer that away. And if they did do that to diffuse the situation or just stop it from happening entirely, we may not even be in this mess. Blitzchung goes on. Lastly, many people want to know if I would be competing in Hearthstone in the future. Honestly, I have no idea on that yet. Since my next tournament is very likely to be the Grandmasters tournament of next season, it's probably at least a few months from now on. I'll take this time to relax myself to decide if I'm staying in competitive Hearthstone or not. Hearthstone has changed the way I live. I really love this community. Blessing to all the players out there and blessing to Blizzard. Well, guys, that's everything for this story. I want to say I appreciate the many of you who thanked me for trying to have a level head in all of this. It's very easy to get swept up in the emotions of it all, and perhaps I'm just getting too old now where the side of me that is willing to get radically upset without trying to see the perspectives on both sides of things is starting to fade away. But that's happened because I've tried to become a more thoughtful and understanding person overall, and it's easy to demonize a company. It's very easy to do it. They're a faceless organization, and you can make yourself feel like you're the superhero of a movie and they're the evil empire. But realistically, as bad as Blizzard can be, they are a company comprised of many individuals, many of whom share the same values that we all do. And when you have a big company that spans across the globe, although yes, it is Blizzard's responsibility to keep them all in aligned on the same core set of values, you can imagine how those different cultures don't sync up perfectly, because how could they? And I just feel a lot of times people only get upset about this when they're forced to look at how the sausage is made, when in their everyday lives they're complicit with so much of this all of the time. Again, maybe I'm just too old, but there's been drama about these international relations forever, and despite Nike and Apple owning sweatshops, people still buy and love those products on a day-to-day basis. It just doesn't add up to me. So I struggle to be brought to outrage and demand others to make sacrifices that I don't make myself. It's pretty difficult making these videos, but it's important for me to keep a fair point of view, even if it's incredibly unpopular to do so. Make no mistake, it takes personal cost this day and age to not parrot exactly the mainstream viewpoint. I agree with 90% of it. It's just important for me to be consistent with my own ethics, even when it's hard to do so. And to do that takes reflection. It takes taking a step back to not indulge in the knee-jerk primal emotional desires and try to actually look at it objectively, rather than drawing the conclusions that are convenient. It's convenient to hate Blizzard, but if you take a step back and think about it, are they really committing human rights abuses? No, they're trying to get groups that can feel very strongly against one another to find a middle ground. That's gonna be everything for the video, guys. It is no fun going against the grain on this kind of thing. I gotta be honest. It's much easier to appease an angry mob, feeding them red meat, than it is to be the guy on the sideline. Because like with any argument or fight or whatever, all that anger gets reflected onto you as if you're the perpetrator for it, and I'm not. And I knew that going into it, but just like Blitzchung, you know, sometimes you have to be willing to take a public hit for saying things you believe in. The world is a complex place, and we should make moves that make tangible difference in the world and give proper weight to slacktivism, which is sort of the junk food of activism. It's okay in small doses, but if you treat it like the be-all end-all, you're going to be quite unhealthy, ethically speaking, in my opinion. So remember, write your representatives. Let's put this energy into the proper channels that can have an effect. If Blizzard left China tomorrow, it wouldn't fix the problems that many people are claiming that they're worried about. The place to fix them is by pressuring people with actual power. You might feel like you have a relationship with Blizzard as a player of their games, but you have a much bigger relationship with your government, who you pay taxes to. Quite a lot, actually. You're a much bigger customer of government than you are of Blizzard, I assure you. So put it to work for you. That's been it, guys. Been FREEDO for YOUR OVERWATCH. See you guys next time.